Finally live. I am losing my mind. I literally just did an entire video sequence, had my phone on for Instagram Live for Training Tuesday. That's supposed to be at 9:30. Hit the live button and the internet or my computer or something had a glitch. So, holy cow, if you've been waiting on me, I'm so glad. Hey, I'm Suzanne Castle. Who are you? Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below. We're talking about toxicity today. Who's so excited to talk about toxicity? Toxic people. Oh my gosh, we all have them, don't we? We all have these kind of people. And really, we've been talking a lot about self belief this month. And self belief is the key, I think, to dealing with toxic people, toxic relationships. And regardless of whether those toxic people are relatives, even parents or siblings, let's say friends, acquaintances, maybe coworkers, toxic people play a huge part in our lives. They can really be damaging to our self belief because we tend to get squishy around them, right? And they are really a problem. I have found that toxic people are often narcissists, but not always narcissists, right? And these kind of people and even systems can be very dangerous to your well-being if you let them stay in your life, if you let them imprint upon your body. And I think it's important to spend a few minutes as we've been kind of closing out this month on belief to really talk through this a little bit and maybe give you some things to consider. The first thing is realize that toxic people will never change. Womp, womp, womp. Toxic people will never change. And often I find this really hard to accept because you might be deeply invested in this person. You might love this person, right? Especially when it comes to family. But the thing about toxic people is they don't accept their issues. Toxic people don't like to take care of themselves. They don't want to better themselves. It's everyone else's fault. They place blame on everyone around them except their own. They want no accountability for their decisions. They won't change because they don't think they need to change. And usually what I find, especially when I'm working with clients, is that they'll come in and say, I'm the problem. Well, no, you're not the problem when it's really this other entity, this other human, right? And so the first part of accepting kind of that you've allowed a toxic person in your life is that they're not going to change and nothing that you do has any power over them. That's a really important key indicator. They operate differently than you do. That doesn't make you less of a person, doesn't make you less important. It's just that their condition won't ever allow things to get better, right? That's where they are, which means you have to develop safe boundaries and maintain them. So, how do you do that? Well, when you realize that you're with a toxic person, you're dealing with a toxic person, especially if there's no real way to escape them, like maybe a coworker, let's say. I guess you could get another job, but that's not feasible for most people. You must set boundaries. You must stick to your boundaries. And I know that that's really hard, but you have to be firm when you're dealing with toxic people. For example, if you don't want them to talk to you like on a phone, right, or in person, you have to tell them, I will only be communicating via email on this or regards to that. That's very clear. I get it, but you'll have to be very firm and stick to it. And it will feel hard at first, and they will push back against it as well. But hold your ground and say, this is what I'm capable of doing. Understand that in your self-belief, you have to understand what your capability is there. You also need to try to avoid being pulled into their chaos, right? There's always a crisis. And sometimes when you're seeking to end or alter a relationship, that person's going to try to pull you back in by making you part of their chaos, making you part of what I call the chaos crisis, right? Do everything you can to avoid this happening. So when they try, ignore it, move on, change space, say, I've got to go. This is normal when you're leaving someone who is toxic because they think of themselves kind of like a puppet master, right? And they're going to pull the strings even tighter to move you, to jerk you back towards their reality because they really do believe they can control others. And often they do that because maybe you're too polite. I know I get in that space too. I care a lot. I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. So sometimes I'll put up with stuff I shouldn't in the way of being harmonious rather than my self-belief is strong enough to say that this is not okay. And therefore, because it's not okay, this is the way I need us to operate. Realize too that they're going to try to stay in what they already know with you. It's especially true, I think, when we're dealing with relatives. But it could happen anywhere. So what I usually see when I start to maintain my boundaries with toxic people is they beg, "Oh, please stay. Oh, I'm going to promise you this, that, or other." They're going to try to turn it around to be all your fault too, because they ultimately don't accept that it's a problem that they have, or that the relationship is a problem and how to work on it. And soon you really be able to tell if you're dealing with a toxic person because when you stick to their guns, they increasingly find abusive ways to get your attention. Now, if it's dangerous, of course, please call law enforcement, your HR, get them involved if it's something like that. But know that the toxicity will ramp up extensively when you are setting your boundary, and that's also a key indicator that you're dealing with someone who just isn't in a health relationship way forward. Now, what is contrary to good advice is that also you need to realize that there's been a power shift here. You've allowed this person to have power over you. And so they're going to try to use it. Now, you may not have realized you did that. You may not have willingly given it away, let's say, but it did happen. And they're going to try to use that power because it's what they know. And the thing is, even if it's someone related to you, that doesn't make them less toxic. It doesn't make them less dangerous to your well-being. You're gonna be much, much healthier when you realize it's okay to feel something for them, even if you must love them from afar due to their toxic nature. And I would say, do you love yourself enough to make a boundary that allows you to continue to be healthy? Grief might be there, that's true, but it's still the right thing to do. I would also say it's an important indicator to choose your battles. Okay, when you're deciding to cut someone off, let's say, when you decide to, I need to change a way out here, it's important to choose your battles. So let's say you're working with someone, they have to speak to you about work. Let them know that that's all you want from them, and set up the grid of communication that you're going to use around that. Right? When if it's a toxic person you've been in a relationship with, maybe personally, you might need to say, you know what, no more texting, no more phone calls, no more in-person drop-ins. We will communicate via email. Because then that does give you time to breathe, walk away, think about what you're going to say, get the emotion out of that, and respond. Right? Don't fight about everything with a toxic person. They love that energy. Right? They will try to get you to fight about literally anything. So find a way that allows you to control the space, control how you communicate, and when you communicate. That's what I mean by choosing your battles. And then I would say finally, as this is really hard work, and so as you end them or alter these relationships, if you're not replacing them with healthy ones, you're just going to slide back. Okay. So you can't replace your mom, your dad, your kids, let's say. Okay. But you can find people that give you feelings of being loved, of being valued. Right. That way you're not sitting around thinking about them all the time. Like, find a person that you can call at 3 a.m. Find the person that will show up for you in an emergency, right? That way you're not sitting around thinking about them all the time. And even when someone is toxic to you, it takes some time to get to the point where you can move on without being upset or sad, right? There's a time barrier there. So start by investing in other people that you think have that capability for you. Now, I realize that getting toxic people out of your life, it's a real big process. And the process, honestly, it's not pleasant ever. And I would say sometimes it's even downright difficult. And I have found that it's also heartbreaking. But if you get yourself in this frame of mind that you are capable of being your very best friend, you are capable of being your own lover of yourself, that you are the best caretaker of you. And that means that I'm going to do right by me and what I need. My clients hear me talk about talking to yourself like you would your pet. Right? Oh, you're so cute. I fondly say, I tell Trinka a lot, oh, I love rubbing your belly. Do you say that to your own self? How are you talking to yourself? It's the right thing to do for yourself to start out of self-belief and love. And when you ferociously love yourself, it becomes easier to shift the relationships that are pouring into you and not taking from you. Wow, that's a lot, right? I totally get it. Yeah, Lori has a good comment. Thank you, Lori. It is all about manipulation. People will say anything to maintain power dynamic. And what I find is a lot of times they don't even know that they're doing that because they only operate out of that. And if that's the only relationship you've ever had, of course they're going to operate out of that. So when you start enacting those boundaries, there's going to be a lot of push, right? Because they're trying to maintain power. And that's when it gets really hard. And as you hear fond of me to say, that's when you need your sparkle squad more than anything, because you need to get some reinforcements to remind you that what you're doing really is the right path. Thanks for sharing that, Lori. So this was a hard one, right? So I want you to do some breathing when we're done here, right? Like, release all that, maybe walk around a little bit, because now I know your mind is swirling like, ooh, where are my toxic relationships, right? I believe in you. I want you to believe in yourself. It's the way forward. I'm so excited to be here with you on Tuesdays. I'm Suzanne Castle. This is Training Tuesday. I'll see you next week.